Hi, Chris Stellianer with Hobby Game Dev, and what I want to talk about today is something that holds up some beginners, and that's a concern that video game development sounds hard, or seems hard, or they've heard things about how difficult it might be, and that keeps people from getting to it. And so let's go ahead and clear up right from the beginning, some of the confusion. Yes, video game development is absolutely a challenging thing to do. That's actually part of the appeal. See, the confusion is think that because it's hard, it's not something worth doing. Really, a lot of the benefits to be derived from it are precisely because it's as challenging as it is. Now, there's a range to it. I often like to use the example of saying that learning game development probably has some analogy to, say, learning piano, which anyone can walk up and press a key. Anyone could probably practice and learn and memorize a song someone else has written. But as far as really breaking through at composing original work or finding your own sort of personality and execution of even a famous piece is really in itself a lifelong pursuit for a lot of people. And in the same way with game development, anyone can get started in it. There's more ways than ever to get some traction as a game maker, to do some beginning programming. Everyone can do some programming. Everyone can do some sound, can do some art, and so on. Even if they're not necessarily going to be on a track to do that professionally for the rest of their lives, it's things that anyone can do, and I think there's value in that. But part of, again, the appeal is that the range of skill growth is virtually infinite, is so broad, is so deep. So if there's been times in my life when I'm trying to take my mind off something, getting lost in making video games is one way to do that because it consumes so much attention to be working through that. There's things that maybe have been challenging that by comparison to the difficulty of making video games, it actually kind of makes them seem easier. It's a bit like it's actually my 5th grade teacher, whose name will remain anonymous for the sake of this video. She was sort of notorious for assigning excruciatingly difficult homework for a 5th grade level. Kind of closer to maybe late middle school, early high school level of homework expectation in terms of the number of hours nightly, in terms of the type of work expected, at least relative to the age level. And really being challenging when for a lot of kids it was sort of, 5th graders maybe a pushover where they'd go home and then play with the toys and the games and things. And that's one of the things that eventually really paid off because it made the next few years of school seem easy by comparison to 5th grade. And in the same way, again, that's part of the benefit of games, that you've got so much room to grow, so many challenges you just find yourself solving for your own purposes, that it's something that you can continue to sort of, it can help change the baseline for the rest of your life for what really constitutes difficulty or challenge or puzzle. One of the other cool things about it is that out of the range of difficult skills that one could acquire, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than a lot of physical crafts, than a lot of areas of sort of traditional talent mastery, like, say being a professional violinist or something. The tools are largely things that are already in our homes in terms of a home computer, home PC, home laptop, the kind you have for school or the kind your parents already have, is really sufficient in a lot of cases. Even an old, Windows XP, Windows 7 machine would be fine for making games, and depending on the types of games you're making, really old machines are actually even, in some cases, preferable. Because if let's say you have a top-of-the-line machine and you're working on video games and you find that you're making a game that works fine on your computer, you may discover it doesn't work on anybody else's because you've been taking for granted and being able to be a bit lazy about your machine having such an incredible amount of RAM and processing power and graphical performance ability that you've maybe lost the sense for what it takes to run on everyone else's machines out there. And so in many ways, if your computer's a little bit old, a little bit dated, it doesn't mean you can't make games on it. In some ways, you got a better test platform. And for the types of things we make as independents, students, hobbyists, craftspeople, doing on the side, or even, us making small commercial titles, in many cases, those simpler machines are perfectly adequate, perfectly fine for what we're doing. And a lot of the tools, a lot of the software is free. You don't have to go out there and spend a crazy amount of money on the professional tools. In many cases, there are either student discounts. In some cases, they are available for free for people who are just using it for sort of trial purposes for our kind of scale. In other cases, there's free alternatives available that are entirely suitable for our range, whether it's Blender for 3D, all kinds of tools. I'll say I've used GIMP before for 2D art, even though some people hate that tool. There's plenty of options out there to, check Google. Alternatives to Photoshop if you can't really afford Photoshop, or even for a while, I think they even gave out maybe Photoshop to a CS 2 point something a long time ago. Originally it was a glitch, and they kind of just ran with it. But there's tools out there that can help you get done what you need for free. I use Audacity for editing all the audio in my videos and in my games that I do audio for, and Audacity is also a free tool. A lot of the materials. So, if you were a physical craftsperson, if you were building things in your garage, if you were repairing electrical, physical things, you've got to buy parts, you've got to buy materials, you've got to buy tools. Within digital space, the tools are just things we conceive of. In many cases, we program our own level design environments. We program our own tuning sort of systems. The material, we don't need lumber, we don't need wire. The material is actually, in a lot of ways, sort of decisions that we make as developers and puzzles that we solve, and the solution to those choices, the results of iterative practices. But it's really just the crystallization of those decisions creates the digital things that we then rearrange and reposition and spread around the world. And there's no cost, of course, for distribution in a lot of cases, or for making more of it. You don't have to figure out, okay, well, how much does it take me to make each piece to hand out? It's free to copy, and that's one of the beautiful things we take for granted in digital space. That would actually be harder in other categories, leaving the challenge, to go back to the original point, leaving the challenge on all the different ways you can go with it, of all the different things you can learn, of all the different opportunities it can lead to, and the difficulty or challenge or high bar set of those. But the other nice thing about it is that one of the challenges of other difficult things in life is that you have to get someone else's permission to do it, that you need someone else's buy-in. You need to get on the right side of the right people to be given even a chance to make something you'd like to make, to perform something you'd like to perform. And in the case of video games, you don't need anyone's permission. You don't need anyone's buy-in. You don't need to be on the right side of anybody. All you need to do to sort of join the club, if you so to speak, is to make stuff, is to be teaching yourself things. There's no shortage of books and websites. People like myself out there who are just looking out to reach out and help folks as best we can to get started with it. And a lot of those resources may even seem invisible until you've tried for a bit and then searched for a bit and dug around for a bit and found that there's communities out there of people looking, much like yourself, to either help each other out as peers, or people who are more experienced looking to help out new folks at getting into game making. So as difficult as it is, that really brings a lot of unity to the community, that brings a lot of people together. It's something to bond over. It's something that's memorable. When you complete something, there's a sense of real ownership and meaning that comes with solving those challenges and overcoming those difficulties. But it's absolutely difficult. It is. And it would be disingenuous to say otherwise. Now, there are systems where you can sort of make games by clicking effectively Legos together in some sense of the word. You can sort of you can take these different elements and just rearrange them. And that's of course, that's something else that's not really video game making. We wouldn't say you're authoring a novel if you are just rearranging the names of characters and rearranging high-level plot elements in an outline, but then never actually turning that into effective prose that people would read, or that could be presented or delivered through sort of more traditional means. So the game making, if you're doing it right, it's going to be hard. It's going to take some time and frustration. And that room for growth is part of what's exciting about it. It can really be a lifelong activity that you're getting just started in. It's not something where you're going to outgrow it very quickly, become bored with it, run out of things to do, have learned everything there is to know about it, and then be not sure, kind of stuck until you move on to the next fad. It's really a thing you can commit yourself to and you can grow with. It can grow with you for the rest of your life, and that's part of the amazing thing about it. The difficulty isn't always technical. The difficulty isn't always in being able to program, or even just being able to iterate on Designer. Even if you could produce the perfect sort of game, as much as it's a meaningless term, just as a conceptual artifact here to discuss, there's still other skills to push the boundaries on learning in terms of how to present that to the outside world effectively, how to put together a decent video trailer, which I've got some other intrigue on how to take good screenshots, on how to write good copy. That's going to help persuade people that are interested in this kind of thing that they should try this out so they'll enjoy it and share it with their friends. That presenting things is part of the difficulty, part of the room for growth, part of the excitement of lifelong skills that can be learned through making video games by confronting that difficulty head on, accepting it's not going to be easy, but that it's worth it every step of the way. It's like I say, part of what's great about it. So I hope I didn't scare anybody off by admitting that making games isn't an easy thing to do. I think, doesn't have to be a hard thing to start out at. It doesn't have to be a hard thing to make your first steps, to make your first progress. But then beyond that, you've got a whole range of growth possibilities for many, many, many years to come. And those are constantly changing themselves. They're constantly being redefined and pushed in new directions by more and different people. And it's exciting. So welcome you to the community. If you're new to game making, appreciate you tuning in for Hobby Game Dev. If you're not subscribed, appreciate it if you do. It's Chris Leon, and I hopefully will talk to you again coming up soon. Thanks.